Alrighty. G'day guys and welcome to episode 003 of the Bradley J. Dryber Experience. I'm your host Bradley Dryber. As always you can call me Brad, and today I'm here with a very good friend of mine, a guy that I've been super keen to have on the show. His creative vision, which you'll see through his company South of Home Creative, or Soho Creative as you may know it, as a videographer, as an editor within the media space, has taken off within Australia's hip-hop culture scene, working with artists like Chillinit Horror Show Crew, and we're going to talk a lot about that today, but also we're going to touch on, we'll probably actually go in deep on your experience in your dad's homeland of Ghana last year. You spent 5 weeks there, and I want to hear all about it. It sounds like a really big experience, but ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Joe Plumb, how are you, brother?
Good, man, good.
Appreciate you being here.
I was interested to see how that intro would come out.
Did you like it?
You killed it. Yeah, I've never really been introed before, so I thought, let's see what Brad thinks of me in a public space. So yeah,
100%, man. It's funny because a lot of people said to me, I've been pretty active on social, and if you can hear a little bit of pottering around, the executive assistant Hunter's here with his tennis ball trying to get us to play. But a lot of people asked me across social the last week why I was really interested to have you on the show. They've asked me about all the guests and what each guest meant and what we're going to discuss. And obviously I think Joe and I, we've known each other for a fair few years now.
Yeah, I think like over the last probably three or so years professionally, started with the videography, but before that we knew of each other. Friend circles that kind of mixed. So yeah, it's been a decent 5+ years I think I've known you. But over the last good 3 years, I think our relationship's really grown and changed from professional only to kind of, I feel like more often than not when we catch up now, it's 10% chatting about video and work, and 90% chatting about life and other things.
100%. So. And that's what I said to a lot of people. I think everyone that I try to hang around, I'm really big on trying to hang around people that I come out of each conversation or each catch up mentally better for it. And I think that's something, especially in the last couple of months, you and I have sort of gone in deep on some good chats. Yeah. And it's cool, man. It's cool to be surrounded by those sort of people.
That's why I love this though, because I feel like you said, we get so much out of the chats that we have. You almost wish that you could have a record button and like reflect on what we chatted about.
100%.
So to sit down now, hopefully have some gems for each other, but yeah, to have it on record, as opposed to just a walk and talk and think, fuck, that was a good chat, and then only get bits and pieces of it, because I'm sure we offer each other a lot when we chat, but who knows how much we miss. There's probably like a
100%.
small couple of things we take away. Oh, that was a good chat with Brad. And then 80% of it's lost because we didn't get to capture it, so to speak. So, yeah.
So
I'm
guys
happy to be here, man.
Capture this and hopefully run up the runs on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. But today I tried to out-vintage you.
Mate, I've got my vintage shirt underneath. Don't make me get it out.
I was like, I'm going to wear the old school Adidas jumper. This has been in the family for like 20 years.
Love it.
I was like, fuck, I'll out-vintage him today. But I'm interested, man. The first time I can ever remember seeing you was, I think I was probably 13, 14 years old.
Shit, we're going
maybe even younger. This is before we knew each other.
Right.
I've got a photogenic memory, right?
When did you see me, mate?
So we're at West Illawarra, and I'd been nominated for an award. It was the principal of my school had nominated me on like an award. It was like an overcoming of the odds sort of thing for sporting and just life achievement. And I remember watching you win an award for sports through your hockey stuff, and that was the first time I remember actually, and then like years later being connected through mates and that coming back into my brain. It's the way that it works.
No, I do remember that now, actually.
So it's going back a long time.
Shit, yeah, we were young, man. We were really young. That's when I was in my I'm gonna play hockey for Australia days, and that's when I was like, at 13, you're so passionate about whatever it is you're doing, and my thing was hockey. So yeah, I was switched on and ready to play competitive representative hockey for the rest of my life. And yeah, I think it was an awards night of some sort. And you were there getting your leadership award, and I was there for running around with a hockey stick and ball. So
yeah, it's funny how times change, hey?
Yeah, it's crazy. Actually, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So we've known each other for ages. Yeah.
But tell me, so for a lot of people, like I've heard a bit of your story, and I've known you and sort of seen you in different phases of life. For both of us growing up, we're a couple years apart. How old are you now?
I'm 25.
25. So you're 26 this year? 26
this year.
Yeah, so you got 2 years on me. Yeah. And I've sort of seen your journey from afar and recently more closely. But tell the people, like, obviously what you do now, how did that all become? Where did you first find your passion for being behind the camera?
Well, it's been a like a non-traditional start for me into film and the video space. I'm not sure, maybe locally some people would have known of a little clothing label that I managed with two buddies of mine called Weekend Apparel. So we had that for about 3 or 4 years, and purely just to cost save, small business, young guys with not much money, I decided that I'd pick up a camera and organise our social media, our e-com and all of our photography kind of elements. So mucking around with the camera with no clue what I was doing, YouTube as kind of my only source of information. Realised that I really liked taking photos, delved a little bit into the video space, soon found out that I liked doing that more. And I guess I had a little bit of a knack for the editing. I started to commission little bits of work here and there outside of the stuff I was doing for the clothing label. I got to a bit of a crossroads. This was me towards the back end of my university degree. So I've got a background in marketing. I studied commerce, majoring in marketing and PR. Finishing towards the back end of that degree, I was lucky enough to go into a graduate marketing position, kind of a big boy job with suit and tie, 9 to 5 type deal, whilst I was hustling the clothing label on the side. And got to that cliche fork in the road where I wasn't super fulfilled in the role. I guess the type of work was great, the environment was great, but I just wasn't satisfied with what I was doing at the corporate gig that I had. But I loved and knew that my passion for photography and videography at the time was much stronger than what I was doing and getting money for. So I just took that leap and said, hey, let's try and make this hobby and passion of mine a full-time gig. And I was young and dumb and confident enough to quit my job with little to no, I guess, experience or financial backing, and just confident enough that if I put the time and energy that I was putting into my full-time role, if I put that time and energy into the video work, that it'd pay off, and it'd have to. And kind of my fallback was, I must have been maybe 21 at the time, was that even if I fall flat on my ass, and I give it my all for the next 3-4 years, and I make ends meet, but it just doesn't work out, 4 or 5 years even, I'm still young enough to sort my shit out and figure it out from there.
I think that's the key, right? Like doing this sort of shit and like testing and tasting new experiences while you're young, because we spoke about it recently, and it's like when you don't have a family yet, or a big mortgage to pay, or real life stress yet, that's the time to do it. Like, it's not to say that you should never, like you should get to 50 and to say, fuck, I'm stuck. But like, I think you picked the perfect time to do it. I'm interested to know, like when you're sitting there in that corporate secure position, what's the fear like? Were you scared moving out of that and into that space? As excited and passionate as you are about it, was there an element of fear? Like, what happens if this goes wrong?
Not to big myself up, or I think it might have just come down to naivety, to be honest. Naivety on how difficult venturing out on my own would be and has been. But I was lucky enough to be supported by a really awesome person in my partner at the time. So I was just confident in that if I applied myself to it, that it'd have to pay off. I guess I was a strong believer in like the energy that you put into something, it has to pay dividends.
100%.
And if it's authentic, and even sometimes if you're not that great at it, if you stick at something long enough, in my experience, I guess maybe with a sporting background, knowing that if you put work into your training, you get better at performing. So I knew that if I put the time and energy into learning the craft, I practice trial and error, and put myself out there, reaching out to people, almost, not really cold calling, but just reaching out to people and saying, hey, let me shoot video for you. Knowing that the wheels would start to turn, and that 40-hour week that I was doing in an office, if I did that 40 hours and put that back into myself and the business that I was trying to create, that I kind of was just, confident that it'd do enough to make me comfortable in the lifestyle I was leading. I wasn't leading a lavish lifestyle. I didn't need heaps of money. I basically was prepared to be eating mee-goreng noodles 7 days a week, not going out and socializing, and making every sacrifice necessary to sustain my happiness. Because when I was in the corporate gig, I just wasn't that happy. So I knew that whilst it might have seemed that the prospect of quitting a secure job might have seemed scary, I knew that my quality of life and my happiness was ultimately the baseline for me making that decision.
I think you said it there. Like, I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. People are scared to sacrifice the lavish lifestyle, and because of that, they sacrifice their happiness, as opposed to it being the other way around. Like, I feel like a lot of the times the lifestyle people live and what they do outside of work is trying to almost mask what's happening 95% of their week at work, where like it should be the opposite way around. I feel like your lifestyle outside of what you do for a living should just supplement and be like the byproduct of the happiness that you have 90% of the week. Yeah. That's where a lot of people get it wrong.
Well, I agree with you, man. And I think it's this classic trap that we get sold. And I think the tides are definitely starting to turn with the climate we're in now, with people realizing the opportunity that we have.
Definitely.
And the ability to make money by being self-employed in whatever industry it is, or all of these new types of roles that didn't probably exist for our parents. And maybe when we were younger, we just didn't have the, exposure to it. But it almost doesn't make sense to not at least have a crack at the thing that is going to make you happy. Try and make it financially viable for you to pursue. At least have a go at that.
Yeah, definitely.
Because ultimately, we work the job so that we can have the money to do the things that make us happy.
Yeah.
So if the job's making us unhappy ultimately, and that's feeding into the stuff that's actually making us happy, if the job's negativity is not supplementing that happiness, it's taking away from your ability to travel or do hobbies or have family time, then ultimately what's the job, what's it serving then? It's only taking away from what it's supposed to be doing, which is making us happy by giving us money to do cool things.
And that's when financially it's never enough, because you're constantly chasing more money for more freedom because you're so trapped, right? Like Monday to Friday. And that's the thing where I feel like people consistently, where I love is what you've done is like you've created your passion every day. That money is then the byproduct of that. And like for you, like you said, of course we all want to earn more money because money allows us to do things that give us happiness and freedom. You can't be naive about that, but I think where you're unhappy in majority of your life, there'll never be enough money. You can never make enough because you're always looking for the escape, the way out, as opposed to being happy in the grind of it.
For sure.
So tell me, as a company, you started South of Home Creative, or Soho Creative, which I'll refer to it as from here on out. Hopefully give a hint.
Probably better known as Soho Creative.
Definitely. Where did it first, so you start doing these little projects and these little commissions, and where did it really take off? What was that project where it then sort of started to spiral into you not hunting for that business as much, but rather those inquiries coming in? And was there one piece or was it multiple pieces? Or
that's a good question. I don't think there was and still relatively young in the life cycle of a business, three 3 years operating securely as, okay, this is what Soho is, this is the direction I'm taking it. And whilst that fluctuates, having Soho as this umbrella of a production operation in film, the first few years was a little bit wishy-washy about what I wanted to do with it. And I was it was a feeling out process where a lot of people might not know this, but it started off having a background in clothing. I wanted to have Soho just as a venture for local creatives to collaborate with me, having my canvas as clothing, and then collaborating with artists, writers, painters,
I didn't even know this,
etc. Yeah, so the way that I looked at making money was having kind of a holistic approach to just creative outlets that I could sell off. So, for example, I looked at getting a bunch of blank canvases of clothing, so denim jackets or t-shirts, reaching out to local guys who might have had a following in their space, whether it be graffiti or graphic design or whatever, putting the two pieces together and then selling them. Whilst I also wanted to dabble with photography and video, that'd be other ways that I'd be able to make money with it. But I quickly realized, using, I guess, some of the knowledge from my marketing degree, is that if I was trying to do everything and market to everyone, I'd kind of end up marketing to no one. So I needed to narrow down exactly what it was I wanted Soho to be. And that's where I guess I prioritized the video space and realized that video is what I love doing most, and editing is where I got to show my own creative flair. And I guess I was getting more attention for that aspect of the creative things that I was doing. Okay, let's just double down on that. But the projects started from, I think, my first couple of projects. I might have, outside of the clothing label, which were obviously for free, I was doing to help the business. I might have done my first couple for $100. So with my, I guess it was just came down to like my self-worth and not knowing what the industry charged, not knowing what I was really capable of, confident that I was good at it, but not really knowing what I could ask people to chuck at me in terms of money. So the first few projects were little to no money at all, with a lot of energetic output and me spending way too much time on these projects to try and make it the best I possibly can. But that was all just, I guess, learning, feeling out how I wanted to do music videos. For example, the first few projects were music videos. But I guess, it just kind of grew. There wasn't one pivotal project which was like, here's my break. Here's the thing that's going to get like Soho's going to be out there now because it's attached to this artist.
I think that's also important, but too, from a business. I think a lot of people have this thing in their head that it's like there's this one sale as a real estate agent, or this one piece of work as an artist, or this one track as a singer who's trying to rise up the ranks within the country that blows everything up. And sometimes it happens, but I think it's more so the product of consistency, where people start to believe. Like, I know for me personally in my space, the first project we worked on, actually how we started, and I don't want to talk too much about real estate video because it's not as exciting as some of the stuff you're doing, but I was sitting in Melbourne working there at the time, and I'd made the decision to come home, and I'd been on the phone organising to come back and into a role as an agent again here. And literally before I'd even organised to go back into an agency, I was sitting there and I was planning basically how I was going to come back and be like the
return of the Mac.
Just like the return of like just like the introduction of just an authentic like agent who was just being himself. There was no, almost strip back the professionalism in the look, in everything, and just being me and how I was going to show that to the world. And I was sitting there and I was like, well, video is so powerful now. And we'd been doing a little bit of video stuff, or quite a bit of video stuff in Melbourne. And I was like, I want to put my own spin on it, like my fresh take. And I remember we'd been in contact a little bit over IG, and I'd been watching what you're doing.
Who slid into whose DMs? That's the question.
I slid into your DMs, I reckon, surely.
I don't know, I might slide into some DMs.
Because I was sitting there and I was thinking, how can I like, how can I really shake up the video that's been done? Real estate video was really stagnant. Like, there was no real excitement. It was almost like, I think most people at the time were doing almost like videos that look like a slideshow presentation you put together on PowerPoint.
Right.
It just felt like photos just shuffling through.
Yeah.
And when someone really tried to do a video, it was just boring.
Okay.
And I was someone who was really interested in property and couldn't even engage.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck, that needs to change. So I remember I'd watched one of your music videos and I was like, this is edgy as fuck. Like, I love this. And then I'd watch like a week later or something, you'd done a wedding.
Right.
And it was like, I remember watching this wedding and it was like, I felt like I was there. I felt like I was along for the journey of this day. And I was like, there's some sort of beautiful combination where you take that ability to showcase a journey or like to slow down the moments that are going to mean something to somebody for that special time of their life. And that edgy ability to capture someone who isn't really interested in the space. Like, I'm no fucking like guy to sit down and watch 100 hip hop video clips a day.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I enjoy the music, but like I wouldn't technically sit there and watch that all day. But I found myself so engaged in your stuff that I was scrolling your feed looking for more. And I'm like, if we like somehow combined the edgy edit and a bit of character with the journey, like we've got a fucking property video here that could shake things up.
Okay.
And that's when I flicked you a message. And I think we caught up the week that I'd come back to organise my work stuff and I was speaking to people. And we started to plan, and it was the first.
Yeah, I remember
the first house that I listed was actually the house that I was living in, so my family house. And we shot the video, and we'd done a collaboration with BMW at the time, and it come together. And I still remember releasing it, and we had such a good response.
Yeah.
And I knew we were onto something because it felt real as well. Like, it felt like a style that we created, and we, I guess since then, have refined, added, subtracted, changed. And I think we've found like a really good mix where it's easy to work together now. We kind of know what we're both thinking. But I love the way that has influenced the space because I've seen a whole lot more videos since we started doing stuff, which is cool. And people ask me all the time, like, oh, do you get frustrated that more people are doing video now? It's
the nature of the beast.
That's just the nature of the beast, right? Like,
I think
people are going to see something like... There's definitely videos that have inspired me or like, you know, I was inspired by your work before and wanted to play a take on that with my own spin.
Much like a lot of my work's been inspired by other things. Like, I think, yeah, that's the nature of the beast, especially with the prevalence of video now and the way that, I guess, visually people are engaging a lot more than they might be reading a blog or getting delivered email through a database. So email advertising, traditional media has really, as we all know, kind of shifted towards the social digital space. And with that, videos kind of skyrocketed to probably one of the top mediums. Yeah. So you recognize that. I recognize that, I think, by luck, in that I started to really dig video, and the video started to become a thing that a lot of businesses, whether it's real estate, music video, social media, fashion, weddings, a lot of people wanted that type of content, and I was just in the right place at the right time, doing things kind of with my own little spin on them. And I actually remember that first meeting. That was when you came back, how pumped up you were to start engaging with video in a different way. And naturally, with me having no experience in real estate videos, I guess it was probably it was an advantage of ours that I was coming at it with fresh eyes. I didn't really know how real estate
100%.
videos were done. I'm not in the market for buying a house. So for me, coming at it without really knowing how things were done previously, it was an opportunity for both of us to kind of be like, hey, let's just make some cool shit within the confines of what we need to say and do. As in, here's a house, here's how you buy it, here's who you buy it off.
And here's why you should buy it,
But let's just make some groovy shit and I guess we've got some really cool feedback from it. And it's probably been a couple of years now that we've been shooting real estate videos. It's one of those things where it's really flowed over from you putting the music videos and maybe weddings that I've done, amalgamated them into how can we do this for real estate. Yeah, that's pretty cool. 100%. You're pretty creative, Brad. to think of that yourself.
See, I love that side of the business though. Like
No,
for
good,
me,
man.
that's where I really enjoy being
Yep.
creative. But so we spoke about a little bit the other day. I asked you, like, if you had to pick 3 projects that you've done, as your top 3 so far, like that have allowed you to be creative, that you've really loved the end product, and you feel like is something you continue to look back on for inspiration.
Yep.
What would those 3 projects be?
Whilst I kind of, my whole mantra, and weirdly enough, it was a little logo that we put on one of our t-shirts that we released back when I was doing the clothing.
Yeah.
It was, all that is real will prosper. That's what we slapped across this t-shirt. So the saying, all that is real will prosper. So my whole mantra is kind of to put my heart and soul into any project that I do. And if it's authentic and genuine and it's real, then it'll do well and it'll be received well eventually, maybe not right away. So it's hard to, because I kind of try to give as much as I can, as much of myself creatively and energetically to each project.
Yeah.
It's almost like a disjustice to say, oh, I like that project better than that one.
Yeah, I know.
Because I hope that I give my best for all of them, and I love all of them. That's why it's such a kind of a nerve-wracking experience. Even with you, now as comfortable as we are and as much as I'm confident that you like what I'm doing with the videos, every time I click that send email, knowing that I've done everything I can for the video, and for it to be out there now, for the feedback of the client to potentially not like it, it's kind of a scary thought. So ones that probably off the top of my head, which I can be like, that was uniquely fun in its own right, or that one I've kind of seen myself going back to and be like, oh man, we did that. That was cool. Would probably be a clip we shot last year with a hip hop artist that's doing some big things now called Chillinit. A clip called Freedom. So that was a lot of fun because I got to experiment with a bit of a higher budget, and also we got to introduce some aspects which probably weren't possible for other clips that I'd shot. For example, we had Chill in full cinematic makeup, so special effects makeup, I guess you call it. He was dressed up as an old man.
Such a good video.
So we had prosthetics and we had the styling, and so that was a lot of fun. So I find myself, I guess, referencing that one as a really cool clip that maybe I could steer people towards, that got to showcase a new type of style that I was kind of playing with, and a fun clip that I think a lot of people could relate or enjoy.
And that's sort of
Chilling at Freedom would probably be.
That's sort of like that story there is like him being old in a nursing home and going out to do the things he would have done when he was young, right?
Yeah.
It's funny because I still remember being in this building right here. So where we shoot this is the building that I live in now. When we're doing final inspections here, because our agency sold some of these, or all of these, I was in an apartment doing a final inspection, and there was still a couple of guys finishing up some work here. And they had a radio on, and over the radio, I think it was Triple J or something like that, Freedom come on. And as soon as I heard like that bit at the start, it's like dun 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 dun. The first thing that popped in my head is him in the wheelchair strolling along like in the makeup, and I'm like, fuck. It's funny how when you watch something like that and it's in your brain and you enjoy the creativity of it, how hearing just those first few chords or notes on a piano like triggered that in my brain. I'm like, that's fucking great video work. Like, I think I sent you a video of the song, like a sound clip on text, but that for me is probably the one that I like. When people ask me who does your video, I don't even send them a real estate video. Sometimes I send them something like that, because I think it showcases your work, and it was one where like I feel like you really got to be super creative and had the freedom, because a lot of your work is having
excuse the pun.
Exactly, because a lot of your work is having the budget, right?
It is, I guess for much of the first few years of me working, it's probably you have to, I guess, dip into your own pocket, or you have to do things that you might not be getting paid for the sake of the project itself. And that's something I'm becoming increasingly comfortable with, and to the point where like I'm happy to work with anyone on any project if it makes sense to me and it gets me fired up. So I don't need to have a budget like we might have had for Chillinit. in saying that I would like to be paid for the work that I do, but
as anyone will.
yeah, but I'm just around making quality content that inspires me, nourishes me professionally, but also personally, something that I'm happy to spend 3 weeks editing on. A week of pre-production, shooting for a couple of days, and then editing for a week or two. Like, that's a lot of time out of my life, and without trying to replicate the same issues I had with the corporate gig, which was I was unhappy spending that time doing that type of work. Then I wouldn't want to recreate those same issues in the work that I'm doing now. And so the way that I look at not replicating those issues is by just saying yes to the stuff that I want to do and that I'm excited for, kind of irregardless of budget or how blown the artist is, or all of these other kind of nonsense metrics that people might say, this is why I'll take on a project. If it makes sense to me and I'm going to fucking enjoy doing it, then I'm open to hearing about it and jumping in. So that's kind of, it's kind of like budgets are a big thing, and if a really cool project comes along with a big budget, then better. But I'm working on projects now which have little to no budget, and I'm doing my best to make them the best that I can because I believe in the project and I enjoy the message that I'm trying to tell 100%. Through film. So that's kind of my whole thing moving forward. If it makes me happy to do, then do it. Not just professionally, but in life. If it makes me happy to do, just do it. Because if it's making me unhappy, within reason, of course, if it's making me unhappy, then what's it really adding to my life? What's it serving me?
Definitely.
So without getting too hippie too quick on you, but that's kind of how I'm trying to move and navigate through this crazy world at the moment.
It's funny you said that, because the other day we had a real in-depth chat, and remember we were saying like, fuck, so many people wouldn't be in the headspace to receive this, and we're like, fuck, imagine if we were on the podcast and we watched the video back. Let's go deep. Telepathically fucking bouncing ideas back and forth, and you guys got no idea what's happening. But one thing I'm interested to hear, and I haven't asked you this yet, is moving forward for the company and for you creatively, is there a style of project you haven't done yet that you'd really like to have a crack at?
Well, I've started to introduce over the last, I guess, 6 to 8 months, my style of editing has changed, and I guess people who might look back through my work might get a sense of where I started, which was high graphic, high animation, really intense type of edits that would capture the eye, that would speak to the short attention span of us millennials, and really draw people in really quickly, and kind of, sensory overload, blow your mind, and leave you thinking, shit, that was a really cool clip. But now I'm trying to firstly be a better cinematographer, and tell story a lot better. So removing the smoke and mirrors of maybe transitions and effects and animation, etc. But people being like, wow, that image is composed beautifully and that story was told really, really artistically. So that has kind of pushed me in the direction of kind of like dealing with a more narrative-based pieces. So in music videos, steering clear of the high-intensity animation, but trying to tell a story and portray a message. So having more of a narrative to the pieces that I'm doing, and ultimately the next genre of film that I want to do is short film. And kind of wrestling with the ideas and the story that I want to tell, something that's personal to me, but equally something that I can kind of sink my teeth into and show a bit of creative flair. That's what I'm kind of juggling, the idea of moving into some short films, and hopefully by the end of this year, and maybe next year, that'll be probably the one medium which I haven't really really dived into, which would be short film.
Great segue from what you just said there, but you said about something that's personal to you and means a lot to you. Last year, sort of getting away from the company stuff now and the work stuff. So last year, I remember speaking sort of earlier in the year, and you told me you had plans to go back to Ghana and see your old man and spend a few weeks there. We caught up. And I know I think you social media detoxed that, didn't you?
I unplugged.
You just went, unplugged and really I guess got in there and had like a real experience away from it being something you wanted to show off on social or just look good over a photo or a few videos. which is hard when you do your style of work. I know it's hard for me to sort of do that sometimes. But talk to us about that experience, what happened there. Obviously going back to see family, and it's a lot about that, but I feel like you come back, and I feel like ever since you come back, and we've both gone through sort of stages and things lately that have made our mindsets readjust, I feel like you come back with a really different mindset. Not that it was bad before, but I feel like sort of now, like you're more geared to understanding yourself and understanding how you can better yourself through every aspect of your life. So I'm interested to hear about that experience.
So that was a big one for me. That was a huge personal kind of trip and journey for me, for a couple of reasons. So I guess my family dynamic growing up was I was brought up by a single mum and two sisters. So I'm the middle of three. So not really brought up with my dad around, and the last few, I guess probably, five or so years, our relationship has kind of been ignited and trying to explore that relationship with him. But for the longest time, I've known how integral it is for me to go to Ghana and explore that part of my heritage. So born and bred in Australia, but quite obviously with something else in me, being African. I knew I was confident and comfortable and knew so much about that part of me being my Australian side. And whilst I used to like to say, like, I'm a black guy or I'm African Australian, I really didn't, without, I guess, the upbringing from that side, didn't really get to explore my Africanism as much as I would have liked to. And it was just this yearning that I'd had for, I think, since I could consciously think about being black and white at the same time. I had this yearning to go and explore that. And I got serious about heading to Ghana for the first time, which, for those who don't know, geographically, that's on the west coast of Africa. I wanted to go to Ghana and explore my Africanism and see what all that's about. And I got serious about it at probably around the age 19, 20. I told myself, like, I'm going this year I'm going to go. But then I got a girlfriend, and then I was at uni, and then I started a business, and then life just kind of gave me little ways out to not hold that promise to myself, in that I would go to Ghana that year. And I think that's been a blessing to go to Ghana for the first time at 25, as opposed to when I was 19, 20 and first made that conscious decision that this is the year. I think it's a blessing that I did at 25. The headspace I was in, it just made sense. I was just more ready to do it.
More mentally prepared, right?
Yeah, more mentally prepared, and just more, I had the tools to be able to take more from the experience. Where at 19 I might have gone and be like, wow, I'm in Africa, and taken photos and maybe surface level experience in the country. I really made an effort when I went recently to have an authentic, true experience where I could learn from the culture, learn about myself, but at the same time explore my relationship with my father, who I spent 6 weeks with in Ghana, which was big alone. So it's kind of the amalgamation of two huge things: catching up and exploring my relationship with my dad, which I haven't really had, and at the same time exploring my African heritage, which I knew very little about. So that trip was huge culturally, personally. As we touched on before, I unplugged from social media, which shouldn't be such a crazy concept, but
it seems to be.
It kind of is nowadays. To spend 6 weeks, just detached myself from the world that I lead here, be it friends and family. I kind of removed myself and all contact that I might have had that might have drawn me back into the comfort of Joe in Australia in Wollongong, and forced me to really be outside of the little bubble that I live in here, in a new world with new people, and just try and get as much from it as I could.
So tell me, significantly, your family has some significance in in that area you were in, right? So you've got obligations now. I want to hear about this. Like, this interests the hell out of me.
Yeah, so...
Because it's not a thing here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I think what you're touching on is my auntie is actually a king of the village that we're from.
Yeah.
So
to me, that's crazy. Wow, nearly knocked my
yeah.
thing off. Like, to me, that's like...
It's a wild concept.
It's not a thing here, so I
Yeah,
don't
no.
understand it. So explain to me and to everyone. So what does that mean there? What's her role within that village?
Yeah, so without butchering the culture, and without maybe making false statements or claims, my understanding of it, which is limited because I've only been there once and I've only spent so much amount of time with them, is that through process and ceremony and ritual, when a king passes away within an African village, the tribe that we're from is the Fanti tribe.
Yeah.
So when a king passes away within our tribal culture, processes happen to elect a new king, which would be your natural progression being the next born male. If they're unfit to rule, then it'd be an uncle, a cousin, but predominantly male. Through a series of events and through ritual, which included pouring libations, ancestral ceremony, so speaking to the spirits of the ancestors of our village, my auntie, who is a woman, was chosen to be king about 10 years ago now and rule over our village of Atwam.
So 10 years, so that's like...
Yeah, so she's ruled for, I think 10 plus years now, which in itself is very unique even within the Ghanaian culture. So there's not many female kings, usually queen mothers, which would be like the female counterpart to the king.
Yeah.
But so my auntie is a king of the village that we're from, which respectively means that I'm a part of the royal family and I have,
some
royal
Prince
blood.
Harry style shit, but like he's more humble, right?
Yeah, I don't know, man. It was a big surprise to me, and kind of an obstacle that I had to address whilst I was over there, being, I guess, considered royal and having knowledge of my auntie as a king, but not really knowing what it's all about or what it meant or the extent of her royalty. I was a little bit skeptical and kind of just like, whatever. Like, okay, it is what it is. King of a little village. But seeing her reception there and the way that people are bowing down to her and...
Wow, so it's that full on.
Yeah,
right?
so she gets a lot of respect and has a lot of authority there. And respectively, I went through an installment process, which she organised for me, which basically welcomed me to the village. I was given a traditional title name, and I was also given the role of leader of the youth. So I guess I have some sort of standing now within the village that my family's from in Africa, which was I don't know, if you check out my social media, you could see when I got back, I posted some glimpses at the festival and the ceremony that I went through, which was wild and crazy, and I guess it was an honour to be a part of. But so my family has...
So tell me, like that, sorry to interrupt,
no,
but at that point where you're getting, I guess, sworn in or introduced to that royal family properly, how long had you been in Ghana for? Is this very early on in the piece, in that 6 weeks?
So this is about, I think, probably 2.5 weeks into the trip.
So you had a little bit of time to sort of get to know what that meant and sort of understand it a little bit.
I wish I did, mate. I wish I did.
Yeah.
This was one of those things, and the reason I kind of had, I described it as an obstacle, is because it was one of those things where everyone knew the significance of it, and everyone knew that it was kind of happening, but it was downplayed to me a lot, in that I think in an attempt to make it like a grand surprise, my auntie and my father and anyone else who was kind of around, we're going to go and we just do this ceremony. It's just kind of a welcome, and it was just very downplayed. Yeah. It's like, okay, cool. Like, I can do this. I'm all in. Let me experience this. But then once I'm being hoisted on the shoulders of elders within our village and being paraded around to, I guess, 100 plus villages.
Yeah.
started to realize that this probably wasn't as insignificant as I might have made it out to be. And so there was a kind of a preparation where we had to go and speak with the elders within the village on a few occasions. And the thing that made it difficult was I was sitting there to the left of the king in a palace, which is basically like a nice house. It's not a mansion. It's not like English castle, but they call it a palace. So I'm sitting there and they're discussing how my installment and how the ceremony around me being, brought into the village in my capacity, how that would go about. But I'm sitting there left of the king, not knowing a word that's being said, with fractions of the language I knew. And it was kind of, for the first time, I was in a position where I couldn't really communicate nor understand. And I was completely the minority.
Yeah.
Where it's just, like the ability to speak and hear and interpret and comprehend and then make sense of what's going on in a situation. I'm sitting there thinking, shit, that body language seems a bit off. Why did they raise their voice there? Shit, is something wrong? And I'm just trying to, make sense of what's going on. So whilst I prepared, I was prepared in the sense that I'd been in Africa for a couple of weeks and I was getting a sense of how people moved and shaped. I didn't have any real idea about what the ceremony meant or the extent until maybe the day before, when I was like, hey guys, the fuck's going on here? Like,
how does this actually work?
I've got all my traditional dress bought and I had to cover up my dreadlocks and my tattoos and I was like, okay, so this is a big deal. Yeah, it's a big deal. It's like, all right, well, tell me what's going on here.
So tell me, after that experience, how does it change your experience from then on out? Like, was there a real shift in that last 3.5 weeks in the way that you had to conduct yourself, or the way that your average day in the village went, or the sort of people you had to be around, or the way they treated you? Like, what's the experience like from there on out?
The way I was treated was definitely different. So the interpretation for the word Nana, so N-A-N-A, is chief or king. Yeah. So my auntie being the king is referred to Nana. And the title that I was given was Nana Amochin II. So now I'm considered chief. I have chieftaincy. So the villagers actually respected and responded to me in that way, which was very uncomfortable and unnatural for me. Yeah, people wanting to prepare my food for me and bring it, or to be kind of looking away as I approach them or whatnot.
Because you're so not like that.
I'm no king, I'm no prince. Like, it's just,
you're super approachable. Yeah, so it was really easy going. So I can imagine that shakes you a little bit.
I was just not used to people. I try to create a level playing field for everyone. I don't want to consider myself above or below. Yeah. I'm here and you're there, and let's chat if we've got something to chat about. So it was weird for me to, uphold some sort of royal status. Yeah. But it's super important to them. It almost to the point where they'd expect me to handle myself as a chief or as a king. Yeah. Whereas they're not. Some common villager might not be on that. They might not have the ability to ever be in that position, sitting left of the king. So that was something I needed to respect in that.
Yeah, of course.
For example, I think I was slouching at one spot, or I had my legs crossed, or at one point when I was in the palace in one of these council meetings, and I was like, hey, sit up straight. Oh, okay. Like, I'm a chief now, like, I'm going to do chief shit. Yeah. Little adjustments, but just respecting that part of my culture and respecting that that's how things operate over there, and just trying to get comfortable and know what how I feel about it, what my role is with it.
And so plans are to go back this year, right?
Yeah, so I'll go back for the anniversary of the festival. So that'll be September, late September this year. I'll go back, and regardless of the festival or not, I think it's something that I feel some sort of obligation to the people in my village especially. Everyone has their cause or their charity that they have, and I think increasingly that's becoming mine. So I was being in Ghana and Africa alone was a huge perspective changer for me in terms of all of the amazing luxuries and opportunities we're afforded here that just simply don't exist over there. Yeah. So would like to go back and explore my African culture and give back as much as I can to those that
Look, I think it's amazing
within that circle within the village. So
I think it's amazing for you mentally and just spiritually as well. Like I feel like you come back just fucking appreciative, right?
So hard not to be, man. So hard not to be when I'm sitting in a car that's being driven around with people bowing down to my auntie in the front seat as the king, and at the same time you've got a poor local guy with no legs rolling around on a skateboard, reaching up, asking for money, and he has no way out. He has to do that or he doesn't survive, because he hasn't got the doll. He can't line up at Centrelink and get his $150 a week or whatever you get. Like he has to do that. And there's so many, like, I knew in theory the whole practice of gratitude and being grateful for what we have and using that to kind of propel positive thoughts and being in good spirits, we've got so much here, be grateful for it. I knew that in theory and I used to apply that, but having the perspective of seeing people in real struggle and really suffering, really just allowed me to grab onto that and that be a tangible thing that I try to hold on to now, knowing that we have it so fucking good here, and that the bullshit and the nonsense that we concern ourselves with, whether professionally it's a quote that gets rejected or a treatment that I put forward that doesn't end up going forward, or getting cut off at the roundabout going into Woolies, like things that used to get you riled up or used to make you feel some sort of way. It seems so silly and nonsensical to worry about those things when, like I said, there's a guy who has to roll around on a skateboard, he has no legs, and relying on the charity of others for him to survive. It seems crazy that we worry about the nonsense that we do here.
100%.
So, big perspective changer for me, man. Big perspective changer.
Definitely. I think I caught up with you just after you'd been home for a week, and you sort of showed me some photos, and I'd seen some stuff on your social. And one thing that I really like to see is, looks like you created some good relationships there, like some good mates, and that you sort of hung around with, and almost done stuff like you do at home, but sort of explored and adventured. And what was that like, going out and experiencing the country and the area? How different is it to here? What sort of stuff do you get up to?
So we were staying, I was staying in a town called Winneba, which is probably about 45 minutes from our village, but it has a university, so that people's perceptions of Africa might be shanty towns and mud huts and lions and giraffes roaming around, much like people might think kangaroos roam the streets in Australia. But it's not the case everywhere, whereas my village is smaller and people don't have a lot to work with. The town, a little bit removed from my village, had a university, it had relative shops, a lot of services that you could kind of go to, buy things from. But it's difficult to explain. There's no Woolies, there's no there's no big establishments, there's no McDonald's, there's no things like this. But so one of a family friend of ours who was kind of, I guess, my little right hand, it was a younger guy by the name of Gideon. I experienced a lot of my travel with him. At the start, I was kind of like, hey, I want to do this. I want to be a nomad, do my own thing, experience it for myself. But quickly they kind of, like my family said, hey, like, take him along with you. It'll make it easier for you having a local guy with you. I soon found that as I started to venture out, we did a bit of a week-long trip along the east coast up towards Togo. I found out that me and him were as much rookies on this travel as each other, whereas we started to venture into different places where there's different tribes that speak different dialects, so neither him or me could understand. Funnily enough, he hadn't actually experienced a lot of the places where I was going. So we were kind of experiencing these parts of Ghana, his home country, that he'd never seen before either. So it was a really beautiful thing to have him with me, but us to equally be like, holy shit, like this is crazy.
Yeah.
We did, I think, a 4 or 5 hour trek to this base of this waterfall, up towards the eastern border of Ghana. And he was just as excited as me because he hadn't had the opportunity to do that for himself ever.
Yeah.
Financially, it wouldn't have made sense for them to be able to fork out the money for the travel, the food, accommodation. So him coming along with me was an awesome experience for him and me alike. So Ghana has, being on the coast, it has beaches and a lot of coastal aspects.
Yeah.
A large fishing economy. The town I was from had a university which I'd go and play basketball in most days. I'd go to this small gym, which is very like, I guess your bare minimums type gym.
Yeah.
So I think for the seats, it might have been an old iron seat that was like recycled metal for one of the seats that you'd use instead of this plush like seat you might find at the gym here. Some welded together bars for a bench press, and so the gym was similar to was like that. But then I found myself, there's a lot of markets. That were some cool things that I did. And then I went on this trip up towards the coast where it gets lush, green, rainforesty. Where I did a few hikes and got to see a different part of Ghana there.
That's cool.
See some wildlife, there's some monkeys. There are game reserves, but it's not the part of Africa where you have lions and rhinoceros and stuff like that. That's not Ghana. Ghana's it has different wildlife. So monkeys. Some areas have crocodiles.
It's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool. Sounds like a really, really cool experience. Going back to the camera or the cameras, one thing I didn't tell you I was going to talk about this.
The cameras?
No, I didn't tell you I was going to talk about this. I'm springing this on you, but as much as you get behind the lens, you're quite often in front of it. You do a bit of modelling and that sort of stuff as well. Where does all that sort of stuff come about for you? Like, obviously you got a unique look with the dreads and the tattoos, and that's marketable in some way, shape or form. How does all that come about? And you seem to have some consistency with the brands you work with, which is what I notice. Yeah.
So I've been modelling longer than I've been filming, to be honest. But I guess I've never taken it too seriously. It's never been a passion of mine that I'm trying to pursue a career as a model. But I was just lucky enough that when I was much younger, I did a photo shoot on a whim for a friend of mine that needed a dark-skinned model. Probably wouldn't have flown around so well now in terms of cultural appropriation, but I played a Native American Indian. I'm African, I have no Indian in me, but I did this photo shoot where I was horseback with a large feather headdress, and the photos turned out really awesome. A friend of mine ended up actually passing it on to the agency that I'm now signed with. She passed on the photos to the agency unbeknownst to me, and they got in contact and said, hey, you've got a really cool look, we'd love to represent you. I was like, how much does it cost and what do I need to do? Said it doesn't cost anything. We take X amount percentage of jobs that we book you, and we send you to gigs to get paid. I said, all right, if you want to pay me for my face and I don't really need to do anything, then I'm all for it. The last 5+ years I've got to do some really cool jobs with some really cool brands that reach out to me, and through my agency, of course, that reach out to me and want to shoot. So I've got to do some cool modeling stuff, and it's something that I guess I enjoy doing. It breaks up the type of work I'm doing, which is film basically. Just another aspect of doing cool things that make me happy.
Is it the reason I bring it up? Because I think, does it feel funny because you're so comfortable directing a set or being behind the camera that I know a lot of the stuff you do is more still imagery with your modelling. But do you ever kind of look at the people like, what's going on over there? Like,
in terms of if I'm looking at the video guys?
Like, why wouldn't you shoot it this way? Or like, hey, have you ever thought about shooting that shot? Or do you have to sort of pull yourself back and just feel like I'm here to do my bit, just run with it?
No, I definitely stay in my lane. But some of the productions that I've been lucky enough to be on as a model, or the commercials, even if it's in the video space, so some TV commercials, they're big business. So I'm almost like fortunate enough to look at the gear they're using, seeing how they're doing things. I'll find myself, if anything, I'm not giving advice or putting in my 2 cents. Yeah. I'm asking them what they're doing or what they're using or how they achieve it. So I'm just like, I get to be here and get paid for you guys to film me, but I'm also getting the work experience of being on a large set and seeing how, and I get to learn myself. So I'll in the breaks that I'm not in front of the lens modeling, I'll be behind just trying to get some knowledge about how these big businesses and big productions operate. So it's been so good for me, and having a modeling background has actually helped me with my filming, because I know different directing styles and I know different ways that sets operate from being a model on set. So it's gone hand in hand, believe it or not. It's a cool little dynamic to be in front of the lens and behind the lens. So
quickly before we finish up, bit of art on the arms, and I know you got plans for the future. What do you like about that sort of space and showing off certain work? I know for you it's more so the artistic side behind it.
Being tattoos? Yeah. I don't know, man. I've just kind of always loved tattoos. I guess having a hip hop and rap background when I was younger, super into the 90s styles of hip hop. It just was super cool pop culture. And a lot of the artists and people that I'd look up to creatively were tatted up. So I jumped into tattoos. I held off for quite a while until I was probably about 18 or 19, which still is quite young to get tattoos. I held off. I think I got a little bit of script on my ribs. When I was in America at 18, I got some script in my ribs and a little piece on my hip. But I just held off because I thought, if I start getting tattooed, I might not get some modelling stuff, and just fear-based complex where I thought I'm not going to do something because I'm scared of something happening. And then once I dived in and got a larger piece on my arm, fuck it, let's just start going in.
I feel like everyone starts with script, right? I started with script.
Safe bet.
It's safe bet.
Safe bet. Some little
I feel like it's also like all of mine like have real meaning, like really thought out. And my first one was like a message to my family, but I feel like it's almost that I was actually the last person in my family. So like my mum, then my dad, then my sister all beat me to it. Like, so I was the last one. Now I've got the most, but it's kind of like, I feel like the script is almost like the way you get it around your family. It's like that introduction to your family that like,
it's a
hey, I'm going to draw on my body here. Like,
and many people, mine was, I had a pretty open, like my mum was super open and free. She's like, oh, that's interesting. Like she may or may not like them. I'm not really sure, but she'll never really tell me what I can and can't do around my body and my choices. But it's almost a safe step in to be like,
it is,
I got a little script. Or if you get like your mum's name or something, be like, you can't hate it.
Exactly.
Because I love you.
It's got like, I keep telling Nan and Pop I'm going to get their faces on my arm.
They're like, I love the thought, but no, so I've got a little bit of work, and I don't know, I kind of enjoy getting it.
It's
somewhat
a fun
therapeutic.
Process,
I like the look of it. I want to have like quite a bit of coverage, and I feel like if you haven't got a tattoo that, not necessarily regret, but a bad tattoo, then you probably haven't got enough tattoos. So there's tattoos where I'm like, I probably wouldn't have got that now, but at the time it was the coolest thing ever. That's exactly what I wanted, so that's what I run with. But I have plans to fill up quite a fair bit over the next few years. I just like the look of it. Some of them have meaning, some of them don't. And bang out my chest this year, finish off my back hopefully next year. Arms are done. See what happens. I'll probably steer clear of my face. I'm not too sure. We'll see what happens. If I feel pulled to it, might end up with a face tat. We'll see.
Who knows? 2020. What's the year? I know we're speaking about business and all that sort of stuff, but aside from that, like you personally, what's 2020 mean, and where do you see this year going for you, and what are your hopes for it?
2020, as crazy as it's already been, not so much just for me, but like as a world, there's so much crazy shit happening. I don't really know what 2020 looks like, and I'm honestly working on, I guess, staying more present and just kind of unapologetically doing things that make me happy, that fill my cup. So yeah, 2020 is a step-by-step process for me where I make decisions based on that metric. Yeah. Is it going to make me happy, and is it going to serve me positively? Whether it's good conversation and sitting down with awesome guys like you, or whether it's taking on a project that I'm really drawn to. Yeah, I just want to kind of put one foot in front of the other and try to just promote the quality of life that I have each step of the way, knowing that we have so much here, and there's so much that even this small little place of Wollongong has to offer.
100%.
That I just want to make the most of it and keep a solid perspective of gratitude along the way. A bit of a wishy-washy answer, but that's the truth. I feel it. Trying to do things that make me happy.
Too good.
Yeah.
Where do the people find you on social? So personally, it's at Joe Plumb.
Yeah, I think it's at Joe Plumb _, personally.
Yeah. And Soho, where will they find the business?
And so the business is Soho Creative, so at soho.cr, so soho.cr.
Too good. Get around it, guys. Like I said, really good guy. As exciting as life is for Joe, like I said at the start, I love that every time we chat up and just meet up and talk, I feel like the conversation's powerful, leads me in the right direction, motivates me going on from that chat to have a great day or a great week. So thanks so much for being here, brother.
No worries, bro. And
I appreciate it.
I'm proud of you too, man. Like, obviously you're hosting this, but to venture out and to be doing the things that you're doing, I always speak about, like, it's no surprise the output that you put in, the level of output that you have, puts you in some really cool spaces, and you've had a lot of success yourself. So good on you, man, for
like
having a crack and just
chase
going
happiness and good things happen. So
yeah,
it's hopefully a big year. So thank you guys so much for watching. We're about to take off and watch John Jones, the GOAT.
Let's go.
Fight Dominic Reyes. So we're stoked. We're looking forward to getting out here and having a bit of a feed with a few mates. But thank you so much for tuning in. Whether you're watching this on Spotify, podcast app, YouTube, Facebook or Insta, we really appreciate your feedback and want to make sure that you're continually engaged and watching and loving the podcast. Get around the YouTube channel because there's going to be some cool shit dropping there soon. Love you guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you at the next one.